Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sandra Christensen coming to you live, and this is the Voice of the People live stream. Today's going to be a fun conversation. I was kind of advised maybe not to go live on this one, but we're brave and we're going to go live. Today, I have a very special guest, and we are going to be talking about generational differences in politics and in life. Today, I have my guest, Logan Christensen, who I've known all his life. He's actually my son. He's going to be a junior this coming year at the Berklee College of Music in Boston. So I want to welcome Logan Christensen.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
It's really nice to be here.
Yeah. So we had a spicy little conversation yesterday, right? And so there was some caution from people that maybe didn't want us to go live with this stream, but I think it's very important to be able to have conversations with people that you don't necessarily align with politically. And as you know, I am running for Legislative District 4 State House of Representatives. I'm on a school board, Paradise Valley Unified, which you recently graduated from that
Mhm.
school district. And so what I want to talk to you about today is just your views, and we can go down, politically and just other views, but I think it's very important to be able to have discourse in a way where we can disagree
Mhm.
and we can have topics that we can discuss, but not throw a fit and then just hate on each other and never speak
Yes.
to each other again.
No,
Wouldn't
for
you agree?
sure. I completely agree. Yeah.
And having been raised in my household, you know
Yes.
my views, and you don't necessarily align 100% with that.
Yeah,
Would
no,
you say?
of course. I think that one of the things that I try to understand always is that because of how constantly changing the world is, right? Like think of even 30 years ago how different it is now. Like I and people my age have grown up in a completely different world than yours, right? And have a completely different upbringing than yours that shapes our worldview so differently, right?
Correct.
So it's only natural that we're going to have differing views and see the world differently, right? And so I think it's when a lot of people are confused, when they have conversations with their parents or kids, it's like, oh, well, why don't they understand this? Why don't they get that? Why don't they understand me? I think that goes both ways, right? And I think it's just important to understand that you're not gonna see eye to eye. Even your parents, I'm sure you have a lot of disagreements with, right? Just politically, just opinion, right? So I think that foremost is important to just recognize that it's not that they're like stupid or that they just don't see it or don't want to see it, or they're I think also labeling someone as just oh, they're
Ignorant.
young or ignorant, right?
Mhm.
I think that's kind of harmful because you're dismissing their opinions when they could be bringing up very valid things and
Mhm.
having a different viewpoint that is very valid, right? And I think that fresh perspective is also very good to have,
Yeah.
right?
So I'm going to interject just for
Yeah.
1 second because I think this is a very important discussion because when you're running for office, somebody like me, you tend to be in certain bubbles. So I happen to be running on the Republican platform, and so I'm going to be surrounding myself with people that act like me, look like me, think like me,
Hmm.
right? You, you're not necessarily that person. But one of the things that I do want to ask is when you had a chance to vote, and that was the last election, right? It
Yeah.
was a presidential election year, and you were rejecting the outgoing president and embracing somebody different, right? But I think the point I want to hear from you is why has your generation now gone the other direction in some of the feelings and beliefs on leadership in this country?
I think that a lot of my generation was kind of raised in a thing where there's a lot of distrust in the government. I think when you were a kid, you had a lot of faith in our government, and the president is supposed to be this person who is very well spoken, very formal. They are very articulate and they have like you trust them, right? Like they want what's best for the country, right? And I think that like when we've grown up, it's kind of just been like a lot of political discourse and a lot of just aggression towards each other. It's not having conversations where the two politicians respect each other
Hmm.
anymore, right?
Hmm.
Or they know that each like they have differing opinions, but they still at least acknowledge the importance of the other person, right? It's just this battle of I'm right, you're wrong. One side has to win
Yes.
over the other, right? And I think that that's very dangerous. I think that that like is also part of the reason why a lot of people my age are kind of very anti like they have issues with authority, right? And that thing is because we see the
Hmm.
like kind of
And
discourse.
that's not a new thing because if you go even back to this to the 70s or even in the past, anti-war type protests back decades and decades. This is not a new thing. It's very common, especially for the youth, to rise up and reject everything that the established people that are either in office or in places of dis- importance or decision making. Right?
Yeah.
It's common. So, do you really feel that your generation is any different than the past generations?
I mean, I think that that's definitely a pattern throughout generations. I think that that's also just like the like I mentioned the different upbringings, right?
Hmm.
You're more likely to see things differently than the way that the establishment before that hadn't been in place, right?
Hmm.
So I think you're more inclined to do that. But I also think my generation is very kind of in a place where the world right now is very messed up, and I think that most people would agree that like it's not like it's much harder to like I don't know. I just feel that my generation is kind of grown up in a place where we don't really it's much harder to like get our life going and started, right?
Hmm.
Comparatively to back then, right? I think that also yeah.
So I've read things that these generations that are coming up now are the first few generations that are probably not going to be more successful than their parents. Where
Mhm,
when I was coming up, we were taught that you go to school. My parents didn't go to college.
mhm,
They worked hard. They taught us to treat people with respect, but always do everything to the best of your ability, working hard. But they encouraged us to go to college because that was the path back then. And I'm talking 80s, 90s back then when I was graduating from high school and going into college. It's a different environment now because going to college does not guarantee success anymore when when I was in school.
I think there's even differences to like, I think when I was first going to school in Boston, right, and I was looking for a job, I think you even told me this, and I've seen other people talk about this too, where, like, their parents would tell them, like, "What you wanna do is you wanna go in and, like, go into the establishment, like, be dressed nice and, like, go and ask for a job." And, like, they'll do that. And if you do that now, people will look at you like you're crazy, and then they'll tell you, like, "Oh, we do all our applications online, go apply online." It's so hard to find a
Very
job.
different.
Like, and all of my friends that I've talked to have had the same kind of struggle of finding a job, right? And like getting that ball rolling. But I think that just even that difference is like it's so much different, like environment to try and do those things, right? And get
Mhm.
like even to get a job. It's very extremely difficult and kind of hard comparatively to like when you were our age and trying to find a job and find that thing. And I think it's just we don't know where to go because like we're just coming up into it, right? And I think the guidance that like and like the experience that you have in
Mhm.
that is not what's going on anymore,
Yeah.
right?
No, I agree because when I went to school and your dad, um, we did internships. We went to college. We did the tech route, electrical engineering, mathematics for dad and for myself. I had business and IT, and I while I was in college, I worked for IBM. I worked for the Federal Aviation Administration. I worked for Xerox, and so coming out of college, I had these experiences, and I had multiple offers,
Mhm.
and I was making for somebody that is in their 20s a pretty good salary. I had a lot of opportunities. I could have moved to Texas. I chose to move here to Arizona to be an IT project manager for Allied Signal Aerospace because they saw that value, but it seems now that's not the case anymore. Just knowing that you're
For
graduating and
sure. It's much more competitive. It's much harder to get those opportunities and those things. And I think it's extremely discouraging because I don't know, it's like it feels like it is finally our turn to like step up and start to
Mhm.
become adults, but it's like we're fighting this constant uphill battle of it being just super competitive and super difficult, and like it's extremely discouraging, I think. And I think also like when people then say, "Oh no, your generation is just lazy," or all this other stuff. No, it's much harder and more difficult to do the things that you were able to do our age now, right? And I think that is also extremely just discouraging to have that be us be labeled as lazy when we're being dealt a harder hand, right? That
Mm.
makes sense.
Okay, that's good input because I hadn't really thought of it that way. You know, and I do see your point. We did not grow up in the same world. We're right now, this moment. You are a creator. You're going to school for music production, and you are getting ready to go into this strange world of AI.
Mhm.
And creators, artists, and people in your industry are probably going to have to compete with people that, oh, I can make a song in 30 seconds now with AI.
It's funny that you mentioned that. Yeah, as we were like wrapping up this semester, Berkeley actually like announced. I can't remember if they officially announced the partnership, but they were saying that they are going to start incorporating more AI to their curriculum, and it was
How
uh,
was that
that
received?
was not perceived well. That like teachers, staff, and students were all very upset about that. I think that AI is kind of unavoidable, right?
Right.
It's kind of being pushed so hard, and it's gonna be the future whether we like it or not, right? I think just the way that we have to go about doing it and the way we have to go about incorporating it
Mhm.
to our future is what's extremely
How
important.
do you keep that creativity and the artistry? Because your Berkeley is one of the places where I don't know some of the alum. You can probably name drop some of them. People that are very well known in the music industry have attended that school. So how do you keep the person involved, rather than the tech? Because I mentioned this before on other live streams. AI is not inherently good or evil, it's a tool. But this is a very different tool that's kind of taking on a life of its own. So
Yeah.
how do you keep I don't I know how to articulate, but keep the people in it rather than just letting it go all tech and AI.
I think that specifically for music, I think that AI could be a useful tool. Like, I mean, there's already kind of things used in the music industry that incorporate AI as a tool. Like, I mean, like even like if you look at Logic Pro, which is a DAW software that is used to create music on, right? And it's specifically for Mac. But that has like the session player, which is a like AI automated thing that like writes like let's say you need like a drum groove or something, and then you can incorporate the session player, which then will input and create a drum groove for you. And it is pretty debated, like, especially at my school, like, using the session player is kind of like some teachers are, like, more okay with it, some teachers aren't. And then there's also, there's things like, Nectar, which is, used for vocals and audio, and that uses, like, AI to, like, analyze and create EQ and create all these things that make the voice sound better or, like, cut out certain frequencies. So it automatically does it using AI,
Mhm.
right? And so
So in that sense, you're able to use tools to help better your craft and your profession. It's not replacing people
no.
at this point. The tools that you're using right now aren't
I th
replacing
Yes,
artists.
I think that that is a good use of AI, I think, for the music. Like, I mean, session player, you could argue, maybe not, but I think for, like, that, it's like you need to find ways to incorporate it that still allow you to be creative and use that, but then it should be used to help boost your ability and creativity to do things without just taking away, like, the skill and because that's the whole point of it in creating music is that you have that creativity and you need to develop those skills and do those things in order to be good at it, right?
Mhm.
That's what's beautiful about it. That's what makes it so human. And like if you just algorithmically do it, it doesn't have that soul anymore that's so connected to like humans and human spirit
Yeah,
that music
because
has.
music moves us.
Mhm.
All of the major movements and things, even from a political standpoint, they think of good theme songs. If you think of baseball, right, the walk-up songs, music is very emotional and it connects us. And I think that's where we can find common ground. And that's why I love that you're going into this industry and that you have a passion for it,
Yeah.
right? Because I mentioned you're getting really good grades there. And you've been making Dean's List. I think you got straight A's this last semester. And I jokingly asked you, well, how come you didn't make Dean's List when you were at Horizon High School? And what was your response to
I
that?
don't remember what was my
You
response.
basically said that it's because you didn't really care about what you were studying back then. It wasn't
Yeah.
particularly relevant for you, but now you've kind of found your
I think I
passion.
understood the importance of it, but
Yeah.
like I think it also is with music. It is something I'm passionate about, and it is something that I love. So I think I'm more like I'm more motivated to actually like apply myself
Yeah.
fully, right?
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm gonna go back to the original discussion
okay.
because it might be a little bit spicy, but I think we can get through it because I raised you to question things, right?
Mhm.
And you and I don't always align on things, but as you know, I grew up in a Democratic household,
Yeah.
right? So I grew up in New Mexico. My parents are Democrat, and I grew up kind of not knowing much about politics. And the first time I got a chance to vote, I voted for Ross Perot, and Grandpa Larry was very upset with me.
Mhm.
And he told me that we don't vote that way. And so it's interesting because now that I have a child that is an adult now, that is of voting age, um, it's kind of come around into a different space because now I lean more conservative
Mhm.
and coming from a place where I was an independent for a long time and I'm more conservative. And now we're butting heads a little bit on certain topics,
Yeah.
which is interesting to me. But I think I also embrace that because I think it's a little bit funny
Yeah.
and ironic.
I
What are
think
your
history
what are
repeats
your thoughts?
itself. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm an independent, so I'm not conservative. I'm not Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I think that I want to objectively look at everything because, to be fair, I do not like both sides. To be completely
Mhm.
honest, I see the hypocrisy and I see the like. I see why the other like they disagree and stuff, but like to me also it's just like I think that both sides have issues, right?
Mhm.
And I think that like you can acknowledge that. I think that I think that the like two-party system that we have also it breeds a like sense of just like turning people and pitting them against each other,
Yeah,
right?
I would agree with that.
I think most people would. I think that most people like I think that like if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, I think that like the just because someone is a Republican or Democrat that's in office doesn't mean that they fully represent your beliefs or views, right?
Correct.
It's just I feel like we've gone into a place where most of the time you go to a party because it
Safety in
it
numbers, kind of.
well no it like it fills out it's almost like the worse the better of of evil. It's
Lesser of two
you
evils.
you agree yes you agree with one side more than the other. It doesn't mean you fully agree with everything, and I
Okay.
just yeah.
Yeah. So, so I'm going to go down this road.
Oh, no.
Where-
Okay.
And I'm going to start with the views of my guest are not necessarily my own. And
Yes.
we don't always
Yes.
agree,
You
but
you raised me to be a free thinker,
yes.
and so
And so the question that I have for you is when and I kind of started this at the beginning, when you got a chance to vote for the first time, you rejected the outgoing president, which was Joe Biden, and you voted Trump. And now you're, at least from what I'm hearing for you, is that you're rejecting that. And I think it's important for both parties to understand that you don't just get the youth vote,
oh yes.
right?
I
So,
I think especially this youth. I think our in general like the boomer generation has been like kind of politically in power for
which I will say I'm not a boomer, but yes.
a long time. I'm not calling you a boomer. But like they've been in power for a long time, and I think that they tend to dismiss the younger generation. I think that that's like I think that that's very interesting that they do that because like I don't know. I from my personal experience, I voted for Trump during my first time electing because I agreed with I so Kamala Harris did not have it didn't to me, she didn't have single like, she didn't have a direction, she didn't have a drive, she didn't have, like I didn't if I voted for her, I didn't know what, like, her thing
What you
was,
were
right?
voting for.
Exactly, it felt like it would easily be a thing where she is controlled by someone else and someone else tells her what her opinions and beliefs like, it didn't seem whereas Trump had, like, this very
Platform.
uh-huh. And I think that, now, looking back, I'm very upset, truthfully. I'm very upset. I feel very betrayed by what happened. It's like he promised no wars. He promised, like it just feels very hypocritical, and it feels very much like, I don't know, I feel very used in a sense.
Interesting. And so what message would you have to people that are running for office regardless of party, even independents, Democrats, Republicans, for your generation to actually earn your respect,
Yeah.
earn your vote, because we are in different times and we're very divided, as you mentioned before. What can those of us that are in leadership positions, because I'm an elected official in school board,
Mhm.
right? But what can we do to make things better, to kind of hand off the baton in a better way rather than just kind of like
I think
throwing it at you
I
guys?
think it's important just to pay attention to our needs, like, listen to us, go out and, like, just literally ask people, literally just
Mhm.
ask people what they think is important, what they think needs to be done, what they want to happen, right? And then just do it.
What
Like,
is important to your generation? Like right
I
now,
think
what are your needs?
like, security and, like, job situation, like, I think that people are very concerned about where they're gonna get jobs and, like, how they're gonna make that income, where they're, like how they're gonna be able to become adults. Like, I'm still in college. I'm not
Right.
fully transitioned into adulthood yet. I have no idea what that's gonna look like or how I'm gonna do that because everything's so unsure and so like, stable right now, right?
Hmm.
I think just that. I think also just worrying about, like yeah, I think that's the main thing, just worrying about, like, how we're gonna be able to become adults and get our opportunity to live, you know?
Yes. So your father and I are a much older generation. We had you later in life. And so we are in the category of Generation X. And we do have a reputation of just being like hardcore workers and just being very driven. And when you were younger, you said something very interesting because, and even dad agreed that don't necessarily go into a particular industry or a work job because you think it's going to make you a lot of money. Do something you love, because there's pluses and minuses with every generation and we all have our strengths and weaknesses. But I think for us being that workhorse generation, we just tended to go into things and just work really hard and be successful in the terms of what the world says is successful, like having a good job and making money,
Yeah.
but your generation doesn't necessarily align with that, right?
No.
And
From most people that I've spoken to that are my age or, like, my friends, I think that, like, what we want is we want to just enjoy our life.
Mhm.
Like, truly, it feels like we may not get the opportunity to, right? I think that, like, we just want to have those things that were, like that you had when you were, like, becoming an adult and just be able to, like, live a normal life in a
What do you
sense.
consider a normal life?
Be able to own a house, have a family, settle down, like, I mean, I guess that's very, that's not always the case. I
Mhm.
think that, like, there's definitely people that have differing opinions, but I think that that's, like, the general kind of consensus, but, um I just like, even, like, a lot of my friends I've talked to, they, like it's like when you ask, like, "Oh, what do you think you'll have kids?" or other things, it's just like, I don't know, because the world is so negative and so bad all like, right now, it's just like, do we want to bring a life into this world or
Mhm.
have those things, right? It's I don't know.
And that makes me a little bit sad as somebody wanting to be a grandma someday. And congratulations, because I know you recently got engaged, and we love her. Shout out to Novelle, who actually attends Berkeley with you.
Yes.
Yeah, but I I wanted to get into this arena to bring hope, and my big focus is the next generation. My number one reason for running for this office is to make our schools centers of academic excellence and to help the youth. And that does not mean necessarily get everybody to go to college. One of the things that I am really excited about, at least in our school district, Paradise Valley Unified, we're doing different tracks now. And so there's kind of a college career track and then a CTE, career and technical education track to prepare our kids for what comes after they graduate senior year, right? Because not everybody is going to school or should go to school
Yeah.
in a traditional college, but everybody has to decide one way or another, am I going to go directly to work? Am I going to go to a trade school and things like that? So that's one of the things. My second reason for running is what you talked about, is making our economy stronger and putting more hope and dollars in the pockets of Arizonans, and because I'm running here in District 4 in Arizona. And so I'm concerned that you may never be able to afford a house, and you may never be able to.
It looks like a realistic possibility, to be
Yeah.
honest, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like relative to where like the buying power that you had,
Mhm.
even like at my age, it's just like it doesn't like it feels impossible, to be honest. Like it feels so like unmotivating and so just like
So as a mom, I want to bring hope to the next generation. How do we go about doing that? Look, for me, that's why I wanted to have this conversation, despite some people didn't necessarily, they were a little bit nervous about what would come out of this, because I know that we don't always agree 100%. But again, I think that's important, to have conversations with people that you don't necessarily align with 100%. And that's how we make things better. Wouldn't you agree?
I
Real
completely
quick,
agree. Yeah.
just to throw in, just so you have 2 questions to answer, just
Okay,
'cause she just
cool.
asked you a question. We had someone from the YouTube Live ask, how much does the younger generation trust social media as a trusted source for accurate information? If you just wanna answer that with the question she just asked as well.
I think like social media, I assume they mean like Instagram or these other places. I think that like I think there is a distrust in like major media, right? Like I think that like sources like Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, like a lot of those news sources you don't trust because like we kind of see the hypocrisy in them. And I think that social media is there's a lot of independent it's an easier way for independent like people who are in media
Creators.
and
Mhm.
creators to be able to spread their opinion. I think you also in social media are able to see a more wide range of opinions that aren't controlled by a like media
A
outlet
producer
a
that,
media outlet
yeah,
that has sponsors and has people that own it,
that's a good
right?
point.
And I think that people go to social media and they do get like they do kind of get their stuff from that because you're able to see all the different people and get the views and like see like actual like people who aren't like
Yeah.
controlled by those.
And I'm going to jump in just a second, because you and I've had this conversation and we disagreed on this point, but
Mhm.
I'm wondering, circling back now, if you agree with me just a little bit, that because of the circles that I'm in and because of the feed I'm in, living in Arizona and you living in Boston, which is a very different city. It's a blue city, where
Mhm.
Arizona is a little more conservative than Boston. And I was trying to argue that we're getting different feeds because, and I don't even want to talk about what we were discussing because I don't want
Okay.
to go down that rabbit hole. But are you seeing that now, that depending on where you live and who you interact with, especially with social media, if that's where you're getting your sources, then do you understand what I was at least
I
trying
get what you
to
mean.
get?
No, I think that like that also is a part like I think also part of the problem that arises with that is like an algorithm, right?
Mhm.
Like the algorithms with social media,
Yes.
they also do feed you what you want to hear, right?
Yes.
And so that's also
Part of that
that's also
addictive
a part.
nature, when you
Uh-huh.
like something or comments, it's
Uh,
going to feed you
and
more of that
I think a lot of my
feeding based.
generation acknowledges that and they know that that's also a thing. Um, but yeah, I do think that like I do still think that like depending on I think that depending on where you're at, I guess that could influence the algorithm.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I know people that live here and they see
They're seeing the same
and
thing.
see the same things that I see.
Mhm.
So I don't necessarily think that that's entirely true, but I think part of it is definitely true.
Okay.
I think that because of but I also think that also has to do with like the algorithm tailors to you and what you want, like kind of. So I think that also depends because like culturally and like just geologically, like there's different uh
different views,
yeah,
different
just based off
politically, and
geographically
yeah.
and like that stuff. So I think that, but those two kind of go hand in hand,
Mhm.
right?
Well, getting back to my message of trying to strengthen the economy, bringing hope to the next generation, how do we get there? What does hope look like to you and the people that in your sphere of influence? What is that?
I think it's very difficult. It's also like I think that just for me, what I think is just get into listening to people again and having
Mhm.
those conversations where you don't have to agree, but you at least should be open to hearing each other out. I'm a Christian. I have my views and I feel like I'm very strong in my views, but I also have friends that like especially at Berkeley because
Mhm.
you experience it's very international and you have so many other views. That was one of the best things about I think going to Berkeley was you have all those different cultures on these like I have friends that are uh Muslim and there or friends that are from Iran or friends that are from the UK or friends that are from Scotland or whatever or China and you get all these different views. Like I have friends that are Buddhist. I have friends that are like I have friends that are like Marxist. It's like you have all these different views. You don't have to agree with them.
Mhm.
I don't agree with all of them. But I think it's important to have those conversations with people and like be open
And
to
be human.
yes and like
Be
and
friends.
not viewing those people by what their political thing is. I think part of the problem with what's going on today is people generalize a lot, right?
Mhm.
They associate like a country with its they associate the government of a country with the people of the country and with like
And their leader.
and their leader, right? And they associate those all together and like that they all no, that's not the case at all,
Mm.
right? I think that that's a very kind of harmful and like thing that we need to get away from is having that view, right?
Yeah, I agree. I remember your freshman year, I believe it was, you called me, you were like, Mom, there's a communist rally here. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you're in Boston. Just be safe. I think you
It
took
was
some
outside of it
drip.
was outside of Berkeley. It was like the Chinese Communist Party that was like doing a thing, and I was just like, what? Very big culture shock. But I've seen them a couple times now, and it's just kind of funny. But then there's also people there that are like that are Christian, and they're like speaking there at the corner of Boylston and Mass Ave, and they're like. There's this dude that's there, and he plays worship music and does that stuff. So there is more than just that. Like it's not like that, but there is that environment of just this melting pot of all these different cultures, which is
Very
really cool.
interesting. Yeah, very interesting. And one of the things as a mom and a praying mom, I am surprised because I didn't expect that you and your fiance would actually keep that part, being faith-based people. I've been pleased. How difficult is it in college to be a person of faith and then just keep that, or do you find that people are pretty accepting of
At least
things?
I don't know about I can't speak for every college, but I can speak for like Berkeley and the people that I know that people are very accepting. And it's like I think people my generation are kind of tired of this aggression and like this like discourse. I think that people are my generation are also more inclined to be like, yeah, I don't care if you have these differing opinions than me. I still respect you and we'll still be friends, right? Because we see like in older generations, I'm not blaming you. I see in older generations that it's kind of like people are more like, "You don't agree with me, and so I'm not going to be friends with you." I mean, that's
We're gonna cancel you.
yes, and I think that that's obviously, there's people that are still like that, in my generation, but I think that, I think that my generation is more inclined to just be accepting of these different things and, like, view it more as, like, you're still just because you have a different opinion than me or you're from a different place doesn't mean you're any less of a human, and for me, like, it's like, you're a child of God. Doesn't matter what
Yes.
walk of life you are, where you're from, what your beliefs are, God still loves you, right?
Right.
And,
Even if you have no belief.
exactly, right? And,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's a really good perspective, and so I'm just like, as a mom, I'm pleased
Yeah.
to hear
Also to
that.
clarify, your question, yeah, like, people are very accepting, like, they don't they're especially, I mean, probably part of it is because I live in such the school I go to is so international and diverse, it's like people are very accepting of
Well,
everyone.
and it's probably too your nature because you tend to not be like very aggressive, and you've been always been pretty accepting of other people
Mhm.
and empathetic, things like that. So I think that might be part of it
And
too.
I think
Do
that's
you
also a good point. I think like for you said, what could we do to like make things better?
Yeah.
I think having more empathy. I think having realizing that these are just other people as well, right? And like that, uh, like, and just kind of learning to how to have these conversations and disagree, and maybe even like switch up your opinion. That goes for both sides, or not. You don't have to switch teams entirely, but you can at least now think of these things and incorporate them. Because I think if people just had conversations with other people and they had these, with drastically different people, you will find common ground. Like they're still human at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right?
I gave this story a couple of live streams ago when I first got on the board. When I first got on the board, I was kind of going scorch earth on everybody because I was
Mhm.
like a little wildcat, right? And I wanted everybody to hear my views, and it wasn't working. And being a praying mom, I kind of gave it to the Lord, and it
Mhm.
was put on my heart that did I put you in on that board to make enemies? No. What find common ground? And so one of the people that was sitting next to me, we could not agree less. Right,
Mhm.
we disagreed on everything, but I thought, okay, well, what do we have in common? We were both moms.
Yeah.
We were both moms, and we both cared about the district, Paradise Valley School District,
Yeah.
and so that's where I started. And then I just started praying for the other board members,
Mhm.
and then while I will still hold my ground on things that I believe was strong, I reached out and told her I appreciated that she does the same, even if we don't agree.
Yeah.
And so I think that really helped with that situation. And even now, she's no longer on the board. We, I see her
Yeah.
and we can talk.
It's
Like,
a respect thing, right? I
yeah,
think that's also another thing
'cause
is
we were
if
both
you
elected, and yes,
if you treat other people with respect and you like acknowledge and you take time to listen, obviously there's people that are going to be stingy and not, but I think the people that you will want to have those conversations with, that they will be more inclined to also listen to your opinion if you take actual time and you actually make an effort
yeah,
to listen and be like cordial
yep,
and give each other respect, right? I think that's what we need to get back to.
yep.
Like if you look at older politicians, they like used to actually like respect the candidates and be like, I respect this man, but
hmm
he
But here's why I'm a better candidate rather
yeah,
than just
but
beating. Right.
here's what my opinions are. Not even necessarily like I'm a better person than them. It's like here's what I think is the way that we should do this, and this is why I think that
Mhm.
we should do this, right?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, and it's been kind of fun. And um,
Mm.
again, we don't always agree, but
Yeah, I think I kept it pretty.
I was gonna say views of my guests are not not always aligned with me,
Yeah.
but I didn't have to say that. You did a good job today, and so I just want to thank you for coming on, and it was kind of fun, and I'm really looking forward to what you're gonna do in the future, and I am encouraged by this generation because I think a lot of people are. You said some of the stereotypes of your generation. They're lazy and they don't want to try or they don't want to do this,
It's not the case at
but
all. But
I having spoken with people in your generation, being on a school board, I'm seeing hope. I'm seeing hope there, even if things aren't always rosy. So thank you for coming on, and thank you for being candid and not beating me up too much about about things. It was a joy.
Real quick, Sandra, before we
Yes,
wrap up, wanted to ask another question, and then you can also kind of
perfect.
chime into this. Coming from the YouTube live again, it's just, do you plan on voting? This is to you, Logan, I believe.
Mhm.
Do you plan on voting in the primaries or just the general election? Is this ever something that's talked about within your friend group in college?
Yeah, I think that my generation is also more inclined to vote. I mean, I guess it's my friend group, so I probably will vote in like the secondaries, primaries,
Oh, you're
and the.
gonna vote in
Well,
the
I'm voting for you.
primary.
I'm voting for you. I'm voting for you because I love you. No, but I also do. I do like the values that you have and the opinions that you have. But yeah, I think that also is something that's discussed is like voting and stuff, and we do in my friend group, and we do talk about that, and we understand the importance of it, right? Um,
And what type of values do you your group, because you have in your friend group, you have all different types of people, all
Oh, yeah.
different backgrounds, all different political parties, I'm assuming. And so, what is the common thing? What do they look for in a candidate?
Being human, like being very like
Authentic.
right? Like politicians obviously try to appeal to a wide variety of people to get their vote and do that, but it feels very fake and it feels like disingenuous, right? I think genuinely, even if it's not something that you like that I would agree with, seeing a person who genuinely wants to make things better and what they think they're doing is going to make things better in some aspect, I think that that's very appealing. I think that like it appeals to the younger people because they see that like uh, authenticity, right?
Right.
I think that I also think just like being uh, I don't know, being including of and being open to hearing other opinions
Yeah.
and being open to hearing criticism and hearing those things to in the effort. I think that also ties in with wanting to make it better, but in the effort of wanting to get the best results, being willing to be open to hearing other people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I'm going to probably end with something a little bit funny. When you were still in Boston, I
Okay.
think your friends were reaching out to you, just like, wow, your mom's face is on every corner. So having come back from Boston to see all my
The new
signs,
Rafi.
call Ruffy.
Yeah. They're like,
What
she's the
was
new Rafi.
I was just wondering, like, how does that feel to come home and then see all the political signs with? Is it?
I mean, I was around when you were doing the school board, so I'm
Yeah.
kind of used to it, but it is funny. It is funny to see like the signs and my friends commenting on it too.
Yeah.
That is very funny. But yes, I'm very proud of you.
Oh,
I'm very proud of what you're doing and like hearing like even yesterday when you had the
meet and greet.
meet and greet, I was very happy with even though I did not agree with a lot of what everyone was saying. I think that the what you had to say was very good, and I loved what you were running on, and I loved the opinions that you had. I was very proud of you.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm very proud of you too. So on that note, we're I just wanted to thank my guest, Logan Christensen, for coming on today. And I think these conversations are important to have. His opinions are not always aligned with mine, and that's okay because that's how we raised him to think for himself. And people's opinions change over time. Like I mentioned, I didn't always align with my parents, and now they're in their 80s. That we couldn't be more further apart politically, but we still love each other and we still give each other grace, and we can still have conversations even at the dinner table, even at Thanksgiving. And hopefully people don't slam the door and get their feelings hurt. But I think that's important, where we need to get back to that. So I just want to thank Logan for coming on, and thank everybody for joining us live. And for those of you that ask questions, I'm Sandra Christensen, and I am the voice of the people. Thanks for joining us.